Hello, Mario here. Today we're going to talk about Toonboom Storyboard Pro. This is video 1 of 2. See if you like it. Before we jump into the software, let's get you in the right mindset, get you thinking about what should be in a storyboard, even roughly, and get you thinking about boarding and not animating. A lot of people try to animate in storyboard software and it never goes well. Okay? And then we'll get you right into Storyboard Pro, get you understanding the panels and the layers. A basic idea of what boarding is or storyboarding is just a clear way of telling your story. It's also a way of communicating how that story will be told. So we'll get into the finer details of what's going to be on film. Another item that has to be clarified is what a panel is and what a scene is. Toonboom software does use these terms, and they use them for specific reasons. And there's one quick tip to help you remember which was which. A panel is one drawing of the storyboard. A scene is a group of panels from one camera angle. So all the drawings in a row from that camera angle will be part of a scene. As soon as the camera angle changes, it's a new scene. Okay, so remember, a panel is just one drawing, and a scene is a group of panels from one camera angle. So what do I mean by different panels? Well, in this particular example, we have two panels. Okay, and they're both taken from the same angle. Okay, they're both shooting down that dark alley. Okay, the only thing changing in these two panels is where the character is standing. So in panel 1, the character is standing closer to the camera. In panel 2, the character is far off in the distance, but the camera angle hasn't changed. So both of these would be in scene 1, for example. So this would be scene 1, panel 1, and scene 1, panel 2. If we took that same idea and changed the camera angle, so the first shot is exact same as the previous example, but the second shot, the camera now has pivoted around to get the side of the character. That now becomes a second scene. So the top panel is scene 1, panel 1, and that would make the second panel there scene 2, panel 1. This is important. As soon as the camera changes, we want to have a new scene. Storyboard Pro is actually going to allow you to move a camera across multiple panels in one scene. So that means that there's one camera from one angle across multiple panels, similar to our scene 1 with two panels. In this case, you would actually have two separate cameras. So they would actually be two separate scenes. Okay, so you have the software started. Before we get to work, let's do a quick overview of the interface. Of course, in the main screen, you have your drawing space. And down below, you could see the different panels if you've created them. If not, you might just see one panel, and that's fine. I'll show you how to add some. On the left side, you see your normal tools that you're used to seeing, your paintbrush, your pencil, your fill tool, your text tool, your shape tool. Okay. Across the top, these are your different views, different ways to see your panels. Beside that is how to add panels. Below that, you're going to see your layers. These are the different layers of your storyboards, of each board. And then in this panel, this is where you could type in your dialogue, any action notes that's going to happen, or just general notes. Now, if you are getting ready to draw, let's say you choose the paintbrush and you want to choose a color, that's under Tool Properties. Here's where you could choose your color and your brushes. Now let's jump into details about those other items. Now how does Toonboom Storyboard Pro show us which is a scene and which is just a panel? Well, in this case we're seeing 4 panels. That's pretty straightforward. Now the first one, if you look at the top, it has a 1 and then 1 of 1. So that's scene 1, panel 1 of 1. Okay? In panel 2 and 3, you could see that there's a gray border around it. That gray border is telling us that that's all in one scene. Okay? And if you look at the top of it, they both start with the number 2, which means scene 2. And then inside the brackets, panel 1 of 2, panel 2 of 2. So scene 2, panel 1 of 2, scene 2, panel 2 of 2. So just look for how they box them together. Okay, and if you notice, number 4 is now outside of that box, so that becomes scene 3. So in this example, you're seeing 3 scenes, and only scene 2 has more than 1 panel. Look across the top of the software, and you're going to see these buttons. These are your Add Panel buttons. The first one will add a new panel to an existing scene. Now, if you don't have anything, it's going to create panel 1 for scene 1. Simple. But if you want to create a new scene, that's the second button. This will create panel 1 of scene 2 as an example. So this creates a new scene. So add a panel to an existing scene, add a panel to a new scene, or start a new scene. One process that is important to know is that you can rearrange these panels. Say for example, I want panel 5 here to be in between these 2 scenes. So I can grab it by this title and drag it over and make sure I get a straight red line. Not the connected line, you want the straight line. And that will put it in between the 2. See, 5 now is in between scene 1 and scene 2. Okay, so now this is, even though it says scene 3, you can rename it, but you have one that's already called scene 2, so you might want to rename this something else. But you can grab these by the title and move them around. Now, if you want to put it inside a scene, that's doable as well. You can grab it by the title and again just drop it in between. Okay. Now, if I want to pull it back, same thing applies. It's going to ask to rename it. Let's call it scene 3. And it's back where it was. Now let's say I want to add it to scene 2, because right now it's its own scene. Let's say I want to connect it in here because it's the same camera angle. I'm going to grab it by the title and I'm going to grab this little hook. Watch, it goes to a straight red and then a hook red. See how it hooks in? Now it's part of scene 2. See that? Scene 2, scene 2, scene 2. So I could do the same by bringing it, grabbing it by that. If I put it straight, it'll be its own scene, and it's asking me what to call it. Yeah, we can call it 2A, sure. So now it's scene 2A, and this is just scene 2. But now if I want to attach it to scene 1, let's do that again. I'll pull it over. Instead of a straight line, we want the hooks. As soon as you get the hooks, it's attached now to scene 1. Now, as you start drawing your panels, think about separating your objects. So put your background on its own layer. Put the character on its own layer. Put the prop, if the character is carrying something, or if there's a car, put the prop on its own layer. And if there's something in front of the character, put put it in its own layer as well. So we want to separate our layers by objects. Okay? So to do that, if you look in the top right hand corner, you'll see that there's layers up there, A and B. These are the layers that we're going to want to use to separate objects like character, prop, background, overlay, which is in front of the character. Okay? And there's a little add button in the bottom left to add another layer. Now this is an important step. At first it doesn't seem important at all, but as soon as you go to move something, if you've bundled anything together, they will all move together. So say you want to slide your character across the screen to demonstrate a walk cycle, for example. But you put a tree in the same layer. Well, when you slide the character across, you're going to have a sliding tree as well. It'll look kind of ridiculous. So separate your layers by objects. Now Storyboard Pro does give us a lot of different ways to see our panels. Okay, in the software across the top, these are our views. These are different ways that we can view our panel. By default, you're in the drawing view, and this lets you draw your panels. Okay. Anything time sensitive, you're going to jump over to the timeline view. This is where we're going to move items or move our camera. We'll be using this view a lot in video 2. Okay. This will also let us determine how long each panel is on screen for. Okay. The next view is an overview, so you can see all the views or all the panels on screen. The next two, which is horizontal view and vertical view, are representations of what we would normally print. So you could see the panel that you drew, but you can also see the notes, like the actions the character is going to do, or the dialogue the character is going to say. That will all be listed beside the image. Okay, so these two views are really handy. And then there's a pitch view. So if you're actually going to use the software to pitch your idea, this is the panel you're going to want to use. Okay, now you've done it. You've gone into pitch view. And you don't know how to get out. We've all done this. It's crazy. See that little red door? That little red door. That's your way out. Hit that, you're out. Alright? Hopefully that got you started. Maybe you had a little bit of fun with it. Definitely play around, get used to the interface. In our next video, we're going to do layer moves and camera moves. See you there.